Draymond Green. Fingers, thumbs, whatever you want to point at him, it should be pointed at him. And he pointed some at himself in his podcast, which is already out. More on that in a moment. But I watched that game, and afterwards I said to my son who I was watching it with, I said, I honestly think that might be the worst finals performance by a future Hall of Famer I've ever seen. And then I was like, is that hyperbolic? Like, am I being a prisoner of the moment? And then I saw the great Micah Adams, former colleague of some of our coworkers, statistician, said, yeah, no, might be the worst finals game ever, or at least the least impactful. First player in finals history to play that many minutes and foul out with fewer than 5 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Mr. Triple Single, Jenna, truly did outdo himself. So, I'm trying to figure out why. Why did he outdo himself? So, luckily, new podcast dropped middle of the night. So I listened to it this morning. And before he got to his performance, Brew, he did talk about the keys to the game. And listen, hashtag new media, this is the only place you're going to find this type of insight. He said, it's one thing to let Jason Tatum score a lot. It's another thing to let him have a lot of assists. Can't let it happen at the same time. Not going to hear that analysis elsewhere. He said they needed to play with more force and more impactfulness. Again, we've been doing sports media in this country for 100 years. I've never heard of basketball games coming down to force and impactfulness on the glass until hashtag new media. And what was the last one? Oh, Klay Thompson got going, and he was glad to see that. Again, guys, I know it's not on the Fox Sports Podcast Network, but if you want those types of insights, the Draymond Green Show available on your phones. But then, Brew, he talked about his own lack of impact. And while Wilds nailed the game, this one I must give myself credit for, because he said it. He said his issue was, before the game, he was thinking about the refs, and he was thinking about not getting an early technical. He said this. And because of that, he didn't come out with the force that he needed. And I told you yesterday, Draymond's got one of two doors to walk through. Play like a maniac, risk getting ejected, but be effective. Or try to play under control and have no effectiveness whatsoever. He walked through door number 2, and it was, by his own admission, the worst game of his life. So yeah, Steph was excellent for 3 quarters. Klay had his best game of the series, and the Warriors got blown out. Because the third guy of the big 3, the worst thing that happened to the Celtics all night, other than the 7-point play, was Draymond fouling out. I was like, oh boy, Celtics minus 3.5 could be in jeopardy now that Draymond's got to go to the bench. He's got to wear this one, own this one, and podcast about this one, of which he's done all of the above at this point.
Yeah, Nick, look, I didn't hear his podcast yet, but if indeed he said that, if indeed he blamed his poor play on the fact that he wasn't himself, didn't have his own energy, purposely calmed himself down because he was worried about the refs, then shame on Draymond Green. I have liked Draymond Green's game since he was at Michigan State. I knew he wasn't a shooter, but he's an intelligent player. He was a very good passer, a playmaker, and obviously a defender. Draymond Green doesn't have to be a circus act. And if he thinks that he does to be effective, then again, shame on you. You're a future Hall of Famer, not because you can get under the opponent's skin, not because you yell at opponents and teammates alike, not because you push and shove and do dirty things, but because you are a smart basketball player who can guard. And yesterday, look, Draymond, his stat line was horrible. We know that. But he's never been defined by his statistics. Years from now, decades from now, people will look at his numbers when he's in the Hall of Fame and say, how? Why is he in the, I guess because they won championships, he's in the Hall of Fame. No! Draymond Green is a very good player. And if he himself is thinking, I gotta go crazy, I gotta act up to be effective, then that's terrible. And he's already lost the battle. All right? And the things he can do on the court, he did none of them last night. He didn't play make. 3 assists, Clay was hot, Steph was hot, Andrew Wiggins played well, and Draymond couldn't give them any help. They're out-rebounded 47-31, give up 15 offensive rebounds. 15! That's on Draymond largely.
He talked about that.
And then they get outscored 52-26 in the paint. Doubled up in the paint. That's on Draymond largely. So I don't want to hear him talking about, I got to get back to acting up and all this. I want you to go out there and play your game. I don't care if you say a word. You shouldn't be relying on that. And the fact that you yourself think that is sad.
Wow, we had a dramatic zoom out on you, too. We're making movies this morning. We are ready. Okay, so here's the question. the number one question. Is lack of focus an issue for Draymond? Now, we've seen LeBron get super focused on when it's finals time. He goes and famously goes into 0 dark 30 mode. He deletes. He doesn't delete everything. Right. He just goes, dead on social media. Draymond's gone the other way.
Again and again.
Draymond's doing podcasts. Draymond is doing, responding to other things that are happening in the NBA ecosystem of takes. Now, I think it's fair if Nori on Drink Champs has a bad podcast to be like, Nori, what's going on? Like, sorry, was playing high-level basketball all day. Like, dude, Nori, get focused. Have some drinks and do the podcast. That's your job.
Oh, and listen, Draymond, again, I really do encourage people to listen to this thing. He gives 10 minutes of banal keys to the game that you can find anywhere, and then he gets to what he really is there to talk about. The criticism of him doing the podcast. And he's like, guess what? I'm going to keep doing this podcast, and it's 3 a.m. and I haven't eaten. What do you want me to be doing? I don't know. Maybe not the podcast. Maybe a dinner and a nap. I'm not certain. But hey, more power to you. He's reading mailbag questions, and he's doing it all while playing terribly. And, Brew, you mentioned his impact is not shown in the box score. No. I believe Draymond Green should have 3 times won the Defensive Player of the Year award. Can we show a couple early plays last night, Brew, that set the tone? The first one was jarring. Jaylen Brown has the opportunity to get Steph Curry in a pick and roll. And Jaylen Brown says, nah, bruh, I got my food in front of me right here. Draymond Green, you're not stopping me. Watch this. He has Derek White. He can get Steph Curry in a pick. No, Derek, stay there. I want this one-on-one. 2 plays, and he gets a layup. 2 plays later, Draymond Green again on Jaylen Brown. And Jaylen Brown was sensational in the first quarter last night. Can we show the next one? Got Draymond Green out on the wing. I mean, to quote Patrick Beverley, that's a cone, man. And I hate to quote Patrick Beverley, but I will. That's a cone. And they're not guarding him on offense. He's not playmaking. He said himself he didn't bring the force he needed because he went into the game thinking about the refs. That's what he said. I mean, that ain't great. And for a guy who, again, we're not picking on him, he makes $30 million a year as a future Hall of Famer. He's got to be better. Go ahead, Bruce.
You know what that was, Nick? That was Jaylen Brown being focused on Draymond for the last few days. Saying, yeah, he came at me. He put his legs all over me. He tried to pull down my pants. I'm going at him. He knows Draymond's a great defender. He probably wasn't sure if he's going to beat him like that because he's a great defender. But he took the challenge, said, I've been waiting for this. I'm going to set a tone right away. And instead of Draymond focusing on what he should have been focused on, he's doing podcasts. He's going at it with Cedric Maxwell and things like that. So Draymond makes himself a target. Even though he's not the best player, people are focused on him playing poorly because he's made himself a target.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.